Boker Tov, Chodesh Tov. It's Rosh Chodesh Sivan, the first day of Sivan, counting up to Shavuot. We're almost at the great Yom Tov of the giving of the Torah. So it's amazing to be able to learn with all of you the Pirkei Avot, which, by the way, is very much connected to Shavuot specifically. Moshe Kibel Torah Mesinai. The Mishna begins, Pirkei Avot begin, that Moshe received the Torah at Har Sinai, and Umisara, and he gave it over to us, etc. Good morning. Thank you, Ryan Mordechai, for hosting and broadcasting our shir and all of the other shirim. We're going to jump right into the Mishnah, Perek Dalid, Mishnah Dalid, Chapter 4, Mishnah 4. Let's quickly review over at least this part of the Mishnah, and then we can go into the details to conclude this Mishnah. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Omer. Rabbi Yochanan, the son of Broka, says, Kol ha-mechalel shem shamayim baseter, whoever desecrates the name of Hashem, God forbid, in private, nifrain mimenu begalui, then Hashem pays him back in a revealed way. The Talmud says this also in general about, I believe in sins in general. Talmud says in the Tractate of Sota, the second page, Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, the Talmud tells us that if someone violates, desecrates a mitzvah in private, then Hashem will reveal the person's shame. And the Mishnah continues, Echad Shogeg, whether the person desecrated Hashem's name unintentionally, the Echad Mezid, and obviously, if it intentionally, the Chilul Hashem and the desecration of Hashem's name. And so the topic that we're going to discuss today is mainly about the Shogeg, someone that did this unintentionally. One can say, one second, but if the person did it unintentionally, so then why should he be considered to be, why should he be punished? Poor guy, he did it unintentionally. So today we're going to learn about the fundamental concept of what does it mean unintentional, which is related to the idea of conscious and the subconscious. We as human beings, we are used to, we can relate to the conscious. Someone consciously did A, B, or C, and that enables that if a person did something good, he did it intentionally, and if he did it unintentionally, and if he did something bad, then he gets punished for that. But a person can think that if they did something unintentionally, so if it's good, then it's not really good because the person didn't really do it intentionally. It's almost as if he didn't do it at all. On the other hand, if they did something bad unintentionally, then for sure you should not hold them accountable. So what we have to remember is it's not always so exciting to hear this, but that doesn't change the fact. We are connected to Lamala min Hadat. We're connected to Hashem, who is higher than understanding, higher than knowledge, and higher than consciousness. One can say that Hashem is the sublime in the subconscious. Whether we know it or not, Hashem is there and Hashem is acting. And it's not just that it's a spiritual concept which is far beyond anything we can relate to, and therefore it's not realistic. On the contrary, it is very realistic. Whether we can relate to it or not, that's another subject. That doesn't make something realistic or non-realistic. It still remains 100% realistic. In fact, in a sense, even more than the quote-unquote conscious level that we're familiar with. Because Hashem is the true reality. Now, if someone does something, then if someone does something consciously, then we can relate to it. But if someone does something, here's the point. If someone does something subconsciously, then then it comes from a deeper level. It's not just that it comes from something which was unintentional. It comes from a level which is so deep, it's so enrooted in our neshama and our soul, that sometimes we don't even realize that it's happening and where it's coming from. So there's no question that on some level, when someone does something consciously, then the person is connected to it. You feel part of it. But if you do a mitzvah, for example, I like focusing on the good. If you do a mitzvah, for example, subconsciously, you didn't mean to do it, but it was just part of you, that shows that you're on such a high level that you're in tune with your subconscious. That even you're doing mitzvahs when you don't even realize it. I'll give you an example. The idea of a dream. Just trying to bring a point across. It says that a person dreams during the evening what they thought about during the day, earlier during the day. So it's possible that a person can dream something which is good. In fact, it says that our sages, great tzaddikim, have the ability to have questions answered, questions that they had during the previous day in the Talmud, in the Torah, and they were unable to come up with the answers. So min hashamayim, from above, their questions are answered. So too, on the other hand, if chas v'shalom, someone thought or did about something during the day, it's possible that they should dream about it during the night. It doesn't have to be. I'm just trying to bring a point across where sometimes what happens in the subconscious, it is a real thing. In other words, it doesn't mean chas v'shalom the person did something real. The fact itself that a person thought about it and was heavily involved on some level, that itself, even if he didn't do the sin or didn't do the bad act, that itself can, God forbid, have some kind of effect on different parts of their life. Now let's get back to our Mishnah. A sin that was done unintentionally, even if it was done without the knowledge of a person, it needs to have kapara. It needs to have atonement. Because the possibility to make a mistake and to do a sin is only an outcome of some acting that he did not do properly. If he would have acted properly, then he would not have, it would not even have come close to doing the sin. Because we have a rule. Lo ye'una l'tzadik kol. We know that a tzaddik then nothing bad will happen to a tzaddik. So it happened, unfortunately, that he came to that level of doing a sin. What does that mean? That because a person is really connected on some level to the pnimiyu, to his innermost truth, so a tzaddik, that his main pleasure, his main ta'anug is in godliness. So then what is naturally going to come from that? Good deeds. But if someone, chas v'shalom, is involved in the negative, that shows that his ta'anug, that his pleasure is a negative act. So in a sense, someone that does a sin unintentionally is even worse than someone does a sin intentionally. Because when a person does something bad intentionally, obviously that's not a good thing. Obviously that's a negative thing. But it doesn't necessarily show on his deep inner evil. But someone that does a sin, unfortunately, unintentionally, and that testifies that deep down in his soul needs a lot of work, to say the least. So therefore, the Mishnah says, first it says echad shogeg, whether it's done unintentionally or v'echad mezid b'chilul Hashem. Just before we conclude the shir, I would like to just finish off with an interesting point regarding Shavuot. We have a custom to stay up the entire evening. And that's why we have shiurim all night from 12 till 4, every hour on the hour. Very interesting subjects in English. And so why do we stay up all night? Because Am Yisroel slept the night of before giving of the Torah. And if you know that you're going to receive $10 billion the next morning, I guarantee you're not going to be able to sleep. So if they were able to sleep, then that means that they didn't really admire, they didn't really appreciate what was coming to them the next day. So how is it really possible? How is it possible? I mean, so they were doing their preparations for 40, up until then, 45 days. How is it possible that they did not really appreciate the gift that Hashem was going to give them? So the answer is that really they thought that since like we said earlier, that when a person goes to sleep, you can achieve very high spiritual levels. So they thought that through the angels, they're going to achieve really, to climb really high. In other words, what we've done for 48, 49 days, that was what we can do. The last day, we're relying that should be the angels or spirit. We should achieve spiritual high levels, which we cannot do on our own. So what are we saying? By us staying up awake on this night of Shavuot, what are we saying? We're saying that the Torah is meant for us down here in this world, neshamos, in bodies. Not that the soul should expire and to receive extra energy through sleeping. That's the whole point. That's the whole innovation of Matan Torah. Even before the giving of the Torah, we had mitzvahs. What was accomplished, what was the main thing that was accomplished with the giving of the Torah was that we should be able to be awake and to change the world consciously and to do our best being awake. And so therefore, we stay up all night. We look forward to seeing everybody B'ezrat Hashem Motzei Shabbat for the learning of Shavuot, and also Sunday morning for the hearing of the Aseret HaDibrot, the 10 Commandments. We have a big dairy kiddush on Sunday morning after davening. So please join us. And of course, before then, a lot of great events. Tonight, we have a shir on the mitzvah of Ahavat Yisroel, to the mimer of the Tzemach Tzedek of Derech Mitzvotecha. We look forward to seeing all of you in person. Shalom, shalom. Thank you very much. All the best.